It's 5:30, so we'll call to order this meeting for Tuesday, February 22nd. Carl, would you start us off with a roll call, please?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Present.
Remley.
Present.
Lunsman.
Present.
Reif.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Reinbold.
Present.
Langer. Rux.
Present.
Mayor Schoeneman.
Here, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. First order of business will be to approve this week's meeting's minutes, which were provided to us on, or excuse me, the agenda. Let's start with that. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? I know of no changes to be made.
Move to approve. Second.
A motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Lunsman. Or was that you or was it Remley? Second from Councilman Remley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion does carry. Next, we will approve the minutes from the last meeting, which took place on February 7th. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Move approval. Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Rux and a second from Councilman Lunsman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion does carry. Next, we've got our consent calendar is known as signed up for our open forum. We've got 4 items of city business, lottery, plat, licenses, and setting a bid date for some rodent control services. Could I get a motion to approve those 4 items?
Move to approve. Second.
A motion from Councilman Reif and a second from Councilman Rux. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion does carry. We will move right along to our new business section where we will discuss a possible first reading of a zoning ordinance 220101, which permits certain dwellings in industrial 2 unrestricted industrial districts. And here to tell us about that is City Manager Joe Gaa. Joe, what can you tell us about that change?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is one of those ordinances where sometimes is it a cleanup? Is it that someone's pointed out some things? But this was a combination of several of those, I believe. One, we found out there were some housing units in the industrial districts we weren't necessarily aware of, and when we were shown how they were being used, it wasn't necessarily a bad idea. And then also, a potential economic development project came up that would be of good community benefit if this was amended as well. And then there were also some other buildings being constructed that perhaps if we maybe change some wording in this to make sure some detrimental things didn't happen in the future, that would be okay. So again, this is all kind of thrown into this ordinance amendment, and staff recommends approval.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman Reinbold. I've got a question for you, Joe, in thinking about this, and I know that we have had a few discussions as this thing has kind of progressed. Was there a rhyme or reason to the 40% gross floor area which a person would be able to occupy?
Yes, it was just mainly to make sure that the priority use, the priority zoning still maintained the priority zoning. So the residential would be the secondary use.
And then in terms of not allowing renters, that was simply to prevent it from turning into apartment complexes.
Correct.
Any other questions from the council?
Yes, I do, sir.
Go ahead, Councilman Ronayne.
Well, so Joe, I'm curious. I think with the double negative in the overview, the Planning Commission, their vote was to not recommend adoption. Is that correct?
Yes, we actually took it to them twice. The first one was they didn't take any action. That would have prolonged the process, so we took it back to them and asked them to take some action, and they voted against it at that point in time.
And what the overview says is there was no discussion either time?
Yes, that's correct.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Anything else from the council before we take a vote on this first reading? All right, Carl, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Remley.
Aye.
Lunsman.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Rux,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Thank you very much on that one. We'll move along to our possible first reading of ordinance 220202, which modifies the industrial waste pretreatment program. And Ron would have told us about that, but he's not feeling well, so I'm going to leave it to you. And then Peggy, it looks like you've joined us for this one as well.
Yes, Peggy's going to give me a little help here because we'll probably need it because I wasn't horribly involved. But this was one of those, again, cleaning up our processes, making sure they line up with the state's processes on wastewater violations, and making sure the council's tied in, and there's a process for moving these along. And this was really just cleaning up that process and making it a little bit better. Peggy, what am I missing?
You know, some of it, like you said, was obsolete language. Originally, the ordinance was part of, based on some model language that EPA had out in the late 80s, early 90s when this program was first developed. So Ron and I cleaned a lot of that up, and then there were some procedural things that he wanted spelled out more, you know, detailed, and so that they kind of work well with chapter 2 of the revised ordinances, which is you know, more about council procedure and that kind of stuff. So that's the abbreviated version of 33 pages of ordinance. So
Move approval.
Second. Got a motion from Councilman Rux and a second from Councilman Rife. I think that was a pretty good description from our staff here, but does anyone have any questions? How this would relate to our process? All right. Nice job describing. Carl, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Rux,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got our public hearing and possible approval of resolution 220201R, which would vacate the public right-of-way described as Lawson Street North public right-of-way, adjacent to lots 1 through 12, Block 1, Halstead's first subdivision, Merton Street North public right-of-way adjacent to lot 1 through 4, Block 2 and 5 of the Halstead's first subdivision, and McCoy Street, which is at North public right-of-way adjacent to lot 1 through 12, Block 3, as well as public right-of-way lots 1 through 3, Block 4, Lot 12, Block 1, and Lot 12, Block 3 of Halstead's first subdivision, which all takes place from about the 1400 block of 15th Avenue Northeast and 12th Avenue Northeast. And it looks like it's going to be a nice new little subdivision. Brett, what can you tell us about that right-of-way?
That is correct. The petition is requesting this vacation in order to vacate the current right-of-way and reconfigure it with the new plat that's been submitted. Staff and Planning Commission recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Remley and a second from Councilman Ronayne. So none of these are roads as of now. They would just be
They're
spaces
just
where
all on paper right now.
roads would be. So we've got our motion and our second. Any questions or comments from the council? Josh, you got?
No.
Just pointing up.
Just
All right. Carl, would you give us a roll call, please?
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Rux,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the possible approval of Resolution 220202R, which creates a tax increment financing district, which will be known as TIF 37, which would redevelop and repurpose the Van Slyke building. And City Manager Joe Gaa will start this conversation off as well.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is, as you mentioned, the Van Slyke building, a 3-story building, a block over from where we are right now. One of the interesting things is when we're working through this, different staff are involved in different discussions. So at this point in time, I understand it pretty well, but you as the council are hearing it for the first time. So I'm going to ask, there's some representatives from the entity that will be doing this. I'm going to ask that they come up to the podium and just give you a brief summary. I know there have been some questions, and I've visited with them about that, and hopefully clear up some of those questions.
Thank you. Can I hand these out?
Yes. recently, the council approved the Citizens Downtown tip. And I did a comparison to show you these projects are very similar. In fact, the Van Slyke building is actually a bit more conservative than what was approved by, sorry about that. Oh, forgive me.
You're okay, Ron.
How are we going to, I gotta.
No, I'm good to go.
If you look at the comparison, so let me just, I guess, back up a second. So what we talked about previously with Citizens that holds true in the Van Slyke TIF is that repurposing a downtown building is vastly more expensive than building something new from scratch. But we talked about the character of Aberdeen's downtown is one of the things that causes people to come to Aberdeen, to relocate to Aberdeen, to open business in Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen's Main Street, would all agree, is on the way up. Things are looking good downtown, if not great. And I think this is why you are seeing investment downtown. This is why the Citizens Building had renewed interest for a $10 million renovation project. And why now you're seeing interest in Van Slyke for a over $6 million renovation project. So it's because of the renewed interest in downtown. I personally think it's one of the jewels of Aberdeen, in addition to a lot of other features we have. But our downtown is worth saving, and it's projects like this that'll allow the downtown to remain vibrant and vital. But they can't happen without Citizens sat vacant for years. Van Slyke has sat vacant for years. Why? Because of those costs I talked about. So the TIF procedure, the TIF process, is a real opportunity for the city to allow the development to occur downtown that wouldn't otherwise be economically feasible. You can't invest that amount of money on your own privately and then either rent those apartments or create that retail space and make it make sense without the TIF help. City saw fit to do that in the Citizens, and if you look, if you want to look at the chart I handed out, and I apologize for the members attending on the video conference, I will try and talk slowly through my numbers. They are few, so I will not try and overwhelm you. But the Citizens project cost was about $9.7 million. The Van Slyke cost is about $6.1 million. The build-out area on the Citizens is about 42,600 square feet, and you take the width of the lot, 50 feet, times the depth of 142, times the number of stories, and that's how you get to that number. The same with Van Slyke. It's fewer stories, but it's a 75-foot frontage. That gives you a cost per square foot build out of $228 per square foot for Citizens and $191 per square foot for Van Slyke. So slightly less money being put into that project on a per square foot basis, but still a significant investment. The TIF increment that was requested for Citizens is $2.4 million. For Van Slyke, it's a little under $1.6 million. And so if you want to look at the increment, what you're doing tonight is, in Citizens, it was $56 per square foot of increment contribution. And on Van Slyke, it's $49 per square foot. Roughly the same. It's about 25% of the project is going to come from increment. If you do, I didn't include that last bit of math, I apologize. But these projects are very similar in context of the support that's being sought from the city to allow this project to occur downtown. And that's what I really wanted to show you, is that you've seen fit to do this previously. The bigger footprint of the project area is necessary in order to generate that income. The project itself simply can't generate enough increment to make the project viable. And I'm more than happy to talk about discussion that further, but I'll stop right now and take any questions.
Well, thanks for bringing this up. A couple of the questions, I guess, that were on my mind were addressed by this little graph that you've provided, so I definitely appreciate that. So the buildings that are directly across the street to the east of this are not included. Is that because they're already in a different TIF district, or why were those?
No, Mr. Mayor, we actually tried to do this somewhat thoughtfully. Those buildings across the street, we're hopeful will also undergo some renovation at some point in time. So we purposely did not include them, so that if there's an opportunity for a future developer or building owner to do their own TIF, we wanted to make sure they had that opportunity.
So in the footprint that you've included in this map layout of the territory of the TIF, there's no buildings that require dramatic rehabilitation. Looks like maybe the old Robbie's Bar would be one, but other than that, there's not really much.
There's nothing that I'm aware of that's really slated for any big project right now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? What have you got, Clint? We've always got a lot of TIF questions.
Well, I was just looking at, the one question, and of course Ron isn't here, and this would maybe more, but it just seems like, we in your first year you have $47,000 in increment based on taxes, and it just doesn't seem like it goes up a whole lot every year. Basically, it goes up by a small percentage. Are you being conservative with those numbers, or, do you feel that there will be more increment as the area maybe develops a little bit more?
I think we've always been very conservative in our TIF project plans. Councilman Rux, I think Aberdeen has a very nice history of their TIFs paying off early because of the conservativeness, but we work with the assessor's office, we work with Carl's office, we try and make sure that the numbers are conservative. And I think it's borne out with how Aberdeen has grown over the years and developed that they do pay off early because of the conservativeness, but I think it's better to err on that side than it is to get over your skis, so to speak, and end up not being able to pay off.
Because there was one TIF downtown that didn't pay off in the 20 years. So.
There has been one or two around the Aberdeen community that have not, but the vast majority have.
Yes. So, but like I say, I'm just making sure you guys are being conservative, just because it just seems like, it basically means even in your project, you're not even garnishing a lot of potential increment going from an empty building to hopefully one that is full not only with renters but a commercial space also.
Well, I appreciate the comments, but I think we're comfortable with where the numbers are at with that assistance from the city through the TIF for about 25% of these project costs. We really can make this a great project. It'll not only bring more residential units, but it's going to bring first floor retail. So I think everybody's going to be very happy with it. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Mayor, I'm noting the 22 units for residences. Can you address any of the demographics that you're targeting with these spaces for residents?
I wish I could, but I'm just the dumb lawyer here to talk about the TIF, Councilman John. But, I think in talking with the developers of the project, I think most of the downtown area is targeted at probably a younger demographic, but I also think there's a retirement demographic that gets addressed as well. I think you'll see that in the ward, and I don't want to speak that anybody that lives in the ward is retired necessarily, but I think what you're going to find is there's two types of people who like downtown living. It offers low maintenance, it's going to offer proximity to businesses and social activities, restaurants, bars and the like. So I think you're going to see younger people that don't want to mow a yard and don't want to do those things maybe before they have families. But then you see the people whose families have grown up and they're on their own that are going to want that kind of carefree lifestyle as well. That will, those that don't want to live at a golf course or in a townhome somewhere else will find downtown living. So I think that's always the general demographic that's being targeted.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions from the council we've got? Otherwise, Carl, why don't you give us a roll call vote on this? Go ahead.
Mayor, if we don't have to do questions for Mr. Tobin, I would like to make a statement before we vote.
Please do, Councilman Ronayne. What have you got?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote against this TIF. I read a quote recently. It said, the United States today continues to have rugged individualism for the middle class, for the poor, but we now have socialism for the wealthy and for corporations. And that is really what this looks like to me. I do not object to using the increment generated from this property to help assist these developers in developing this property. But what we're being asked to do tonight is to divert approximately $1,400,000 of tax revenue from other properties that the city and other governmental entities would have been projecting that we will receive to use for the community over the next 20 years. The school district is going to lose over $800,000 over the next 20 years, according to these projections. I suspect the school district could pay a substantial portion of the cost of an educator with this tax money. But instead, we're going to divert this tax money into the pockets of private developers on a for-profit project. And I just think that is not the appropriate expenditure of city dollars. I don't think that's what we're being sent to city council to do, to represent our constituents. And I oppose this TIF.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate your consistency on the matter. I know that was many of the points that you brought up during the citizens building debate as well. Any other comments from the council or questions that someone might have for Mr. Tobin while he's there? All right, Carl, would you give us a roll call vote? Oh, got ahead of ourselves here a little bit. Well, on that case, I appreciate you bringing that up. I would take a motion on this TIF financing district.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Rux and a second from Councilwoman Langer. Any further discussion before we go ahead and take that roll call vote then? All right, Carl, now you can do the roll call vote for me, please.
Councilmember Rux,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reif,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Ronayne,
No.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry.
Thank you all.
Thanks for your knowledge on the topic, and I appreciate the presentation that you provided. It was really helpful. Next, we've got our possible approval of the Bridge Reinspection Program resolution for the South Dakota Department of Transportation federal funding, and that would be Robin. Have you got some information for us on that one?
You've heard this many times in the past. We do this every year. It's a federally funded project that's run through the DOT, and we recommend utilization of IMEG or the formerly Clark Engineering to do this work for us as the only local firm that is providing these services, and they've done a good job for us in the past. So we recommend approval of the resolution.
Move to approve.
Oh, second.
Got a motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Rux. Are there any questions anyone has got for City Engineer Robin Bobzien on this one? Go ahead, Clint.
10th Avenue Bridge has been up to the state before for replacement under the bridge improvement grant process. Of course, in the state will receive through the infrastructure $250 million, I believe, for bridges.
Yeah.
Do we have the engineering and all that done on the 10th Avenue Bridge?
We did the preliminary engineering to provide some costs so we could get into the program. We were not approved. We're thinking that probably the best way to do it is to move ahead with the engineering, get that done, so then it can be submitted for the actual. That's how we did the 3rd Avenue project,
Okay.
and we were more successful that way.
Okay, so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Carl, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Reif,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Rux,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the possible approval of Juneteenth, which takes place this year on June 19th, or perhaps every year, as a paid holiday for all city personnel, and to authorize the closing of city offices. And City Manager Joe Gaa will explain the thinking behind that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Juneteenth is always going to be on June 19th. That is the date. In 2021, it was declared a federal holiday, and then just a couple of weeks ago, it was declared a state holiday. In maintaining consistency, we observe all federal and state holidays as city holidays, so we recommend approval in adding Juneteenth to the list as well.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Rux and a second from Councilman Reinbold. Any discussion from the council on this one? It's nice to be able to treat the employees of the city with another day off. I'm sure most of them totally deserve it. All of them, probably. Yeah. Carl, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Rux,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reif,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. All of them, in fact, do deserve this extra day off, even City Manager Joe Gaa. Move right along to our possible approval to award the bid for the water treatment sludge removal to B.W. Morrison Construction with a $14.75 per gallon price, and authorize the city manager and finance officer to sign those documents after the approval by our own city attorney. And Bob Braun is here to tell us about that. Bob, tell us about sludge removal.
Yes, part of the byproducts from our softening process and treatment of the water is there's a large accumulation of this lime sludge. It's useful for farmers. They use it for adjusting the pH of their soil, and for a lot of them use it for the calcium. The soil around here needs the extra calcium for their plants. So we pay so much a ton. It's a ton, $14.75 a ton is this bid, to have Phil haul it out, and he arranges everything to have farmers in the area. So, and he's hauled it all the way down to Iroquois and Wessington before. So it gets a pretty far range depending on who wants it and how much they're willing to pay for trucking.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman Remley. Any questions for Mr. Braun on this one? Carl, roll call vote.
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Remley.
Aye.
Lunsman.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Rux.
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the possible approval of the addendum to Hangar 9 Incorporated's lease, which regards fixed base operator FBO rents and fees, as well as to authorize the city manager to sign the addendum to that commercial aviation net ground lease, which is titled number 71. And Transportation Manager Rich Krokel is here to tell us about that. What can you tell us about that lease?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This would be the third addendum to Hangar 9's net lease. What it does is provides for some modest increases for fees and services to bring Hangar 9 in line with Aberdeen Flying Service and Quest Aviation, so they're all paying the same per square foot rate and 4 cents per gallon fuel flowage fees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman Rux. Any questions on this addendum? All right, then Carl, would you give us a vote, please?
Councilmember Rux.
Aye.
Langer.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Lunsman.
Aye.
Remley.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got the possible approval, letter of agreement with Helms and Associates to provide miscellaneous engineering services to the Aberdeen Regional Airport, and to authorize city manager to sign that 2022 agreement. Rich?
Yes, sir. This letter of agreement is for miscellaneous services that are not covered under an AIP project or covered with any other federal monies. An example of this would be the FAA inspector comes and he finds something that he doesn't like. So we need some engineering help from Helms. We'll contract with them through this letter of agreement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Lunsman and a second from Councilman Johnson. Any questions? Straightforward business. Carl, go ahead.
Mayor, I would have a question.
Oh,
if I
go
may.
ahead. Councilman
Thank you.
Ronayne, sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, is the I'm curious about this limitation of liability provision in the letter agreement. Is that in our other engineering agreements? If you know.
Is that a question to me?
Yes, sir.
I would say without the city attorney here, we're, Rich and I, either one off the top of our heads are not sure.
Okay, I mean, is that actually a it says that it's a negotiated term. Was it actually a negotiated term?
This probably was several years ago. We just kind of continue on with this service from year to year. I bring this to the council annually.
And, okay, I don't remember ever reading that. Maybe it's always been in there. Okay. Thank you very much.
Rob, would it make sense to delay this vote and speak to the city manager about those details and whether or not that's common practice?
I think that's a terrific idea, and I'll move to table this for till next meeting.
Second.
A motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Rux to table this discussion until next week when we can have the input of our city attorney, who assuredly has read through this thing very, very thoroughly.
Thank you, Mayor.
Carl, would you give us a vote on tabling this this matter until next week?
Councilmember Rux,
Aye.
Remley, Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reif,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got Rich here. We've got the possible approval of payments for the work on the airport improvement projects and to authorize the city manager to sign those pay requests. We've got payment number 5, which is an apron project to Helms for $12.84 1 cent. We've got payment 13 for geometry to Helms for $16.335 66 cents. We've got payment 27 to the taxiway geometry project to Helms for $28.88 84 cents. Then we've got payment 8, which goes for the taxiway geometry projects to Sharp Enterprises for $94,691 33 cents. We've got payment 5 SAE to Sharp Enterprises for geometry, $61,509 11 cents. We've got payment 34 to taxiway C project to Helms for $55.39 cents. And finally, payment number 10, which is for the taxiway improvement projects to the Reedy Construction for $10,000 even.
Move to approve. Oh.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Take a
I'm sorry.
motion, Councilman Johnson. We got a second, and then we'll have Rich.
Sure. Move to approve all mentioned payments.
Second.
Motion Johnson, second Rex. All right, now, Rich, what can you tell us about
Okay.
these variety of payments?
So, payment number 5, line item 1, is engineering, construction resident, engineer services. That's part of the 100% funded project. Line 2 is phase 1 design services of GA apron project, which is 75% complete. That's also that 100% fully funded project. Line 3 is the construction engineering administration services for AIP project 27, and that's also 100% fully funded. Go through these here. Line item number 4 is releasing some retainage back to Sharp Enterprises. There will still be 6.5% held back on this, and that will cover seating and pavement markings. And line item number 5 is releasing more retainage back to Sharp Enterprises. So we, with these last two, we held on to about $400,000. With these two retainage releases, we're still sitting on $250,000, and that's enough to get them back here in the spring and finish up their project. So, and that's within AIP rules, I guess, for lack of a better term. Line item number 6 is for the financial closeout report for Taxiway Charlie, which was our project a year and a half ago now. And the $10,000 to Reedy Construction is the final retainage that we were holding on that project.
Got our motion and our second, Johnson and Rux. Any questions on any of these payments? Carl, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Reif,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Rux,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've
Thank you,
got,
Council.
oh, thank you for joining us, Rich. Appreciate it. See you in a week. Next, we've got our review and approval of claims for the bills of the week, February 22nd. Can I get a motion to pay our bills?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Councilman Lunsman and a second from Councilman Rife. Carl, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Rux,
Aye.
Langer,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Lunsman,
Aye.
Remley,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Next, we've got our city manager's report with Joe Gaa. Joe, what have you got for us here tonight?
Just one thing to talk about, the most important thing of the day, but over the last several hours, you might have noticed there's been a little snow. And I mean that, it's been a little snow. It hasn't been a lot of snow, but it's been a whole lot of wind. And so you might have noticed the crew has been out and hit some of the major routes. The snow removal process that's established here is we wait till the end of the storm, and then we get out with everybody we can find, and within 24 hours it's cleared up. That's typically the norm. Some places I've been, we draw it out for several days. We're about as efficient here as I've ever seen. So tonight that will start about 10 o'clock. You'll see crews in the commercial and the downtown areas. So it may still be a little wind blown in your neighborhoods when you leave in the morning, but they will hit those throughout the day. And hopefully when we all get home tomorrow night, things look a lot better, and I know they will. But with that, we need your cars off the streets, and if not, they get towed, and that doesn't make anybody happy. So the more we work together on this, the faster it goes. So did I miss anything? Robin and his crews are ready to go. So they'll be out starting later on this evening.
And the tickets are a little higher this year, right? It's $80 for the tow?
Yeah, last couple of years we've had them a little higher, and
So,
it has been noticed by some.
thank you very much. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'd like to ask Robin a question.
Oh, go ahead. What have you got? Councilman Remley?
The 17th Avenue Southeast, all tore up. Is that going to be one of the first projects that they try and fix when the ground thaws?
They, as soon as asphalt's available, they will get after a lot of those areas that are in tough shape, yes.
Okay.
And we can put that on the list for sure.
All right.
Thank you, both of you gentlemen. I would take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman Lunsman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.